It was a scandal that shook the foundations of nations. A tale of greed, excess, and betrayal, where billions of dollars vanished into the shadows of luxury yachts, Hollywood parties, and Swiss bank accounts. At the center of it all was a man whose name is now synonymous with financial deception. But how did this unassuming Malaysian financier mastermind one of the largest financial frauds in history? This is the story of Joe Low and the 1MDB scandal. A tale of deception so audacious that it changed the landscape of global banking forever. Joe Low wasn't your typical fraudster. Born into a wealthy Malaysian family, he was a graduate of the prestigious Wharton School of Business. But unlike his peers, Low's aspirations went far beyond the boardroom. He wasn't interested in merely managing wealth. He wanted to create it, on a scale the world had never seen. Armed with charm, a knack for networking, and a deep understanding of global finance, Low cultivated relationships with the world's elite. From Malaysian politicians to Hollywood stars, he built an image of a man who could turn dreams into reality. But behind the glamour was a meticulous schemer, laying the groundwork for an unprecedented heist. The stage was set in 2009 when Malaysia's government launched the One Malaysia Development Berhad, or 1MDB, a sovereign wealth fund designed to spur economic growth. Officially, it was to be a beacon of hope for Malaysia, channeling funds into infrastructure, energy, and tourism. Unofficially, it became Joe Low's playground. Low wasn't an official employee of 1MDB, yet he wielded enormous influence. Through his connections with then Prime Minister Najib Razak, he positioned himself as an informal advisor. This allowed him to operate in the shadows, away from public scrutiny. The heist began with the issuance of high-yield bonds, marketed as investments in energy and development projects. Collaborating with Goldman Sachs, Low helped 1MDB raise $6.5 billion in 3 separate bond deals. These bonds were ostensibly designed to fund partnerships with international entities and infrastructure growth. Yet behind the scenes, they were the keystones of an elaborate embezzlement scheme. Goldman Sachs played a pivotal role in structuring and marketing the bonds, charging exorbitant fees for their services, earning an unprecedented $600 million for 3 deals. These bonds were sold to investors worldwide, including prominent institutions, under the premise of supporting Malaysia's growth. The real deception began when the proceeds from these bonds were routed through a series of intermediaries. Low set up shell companies with names closely resembling legitimate entities. For instance, Abar Investments PJS Limited, a fraudulent firm registered in the British Virgin Islands, was used to impersonate Abar Investments PJS, a subsidiary of Abu Dhabi's sovereign wealth fund. This subtle name alteration allowed Low to divert billions without immediate suspicion. As funds moved through these shell companies, they were funneled into offshore accounts in jurisdictions known for secrecy, such as the Cayman Islands and Seychelles. From there, the money was redirected into personal accounts belonging to Low and his associates, disguised as legitimate payments for consulting services or investment fees. To further obfuscate the trail, Low orchestrated fake joint ventures. A partnership with PetroSaudi International, a Saudi oil and gas company, was announced as a significant investment by 1MDB. In reality, the $1 billion injected into the joint venture was immediately rerouted. Approximately $700 million was wired to an account at RBS Coutts Bank in Zurich, controlled by Good Star Limited, a company secretly owned by Low. This pattern repeated across multiple deals, with millions vanishing at every step. The complexity of the transactions, coupled with the involvement of trusted global institutions, made it nearly impossible for regulators to detect the fraud in its early stages. Low's brilliance lay in his ability to exploit the opacity of international financial systems. The funds were laundered through a meticulous process known as layering. Money was moved through numerous accounts, often in small, seemingly unrelated amounts, to obscure its origins. Lowe relied on a network of complicit bankers, lawyers, and accountants who facilitated these transactions in exchange for hefty fees. Even when red flags appeared, such as discrepancies in 1MDB's audits or unusual transactions flagged by banks, Lowe managed to suppress scrutiny by leveraging his political connections. While the money was being siphoned off, Lowe wasted no time indulging in his ill-gotten wealth. Luxury purchases became a hallmark of his operation, serving both as a distraction and as a way to integrate himself into elite circles. He acquired properties in Manhattan, Los Angeles, and London, spent millions on fine art, and purchased a $250 million super yacht named Equanimity. Perhaps most audaciously, Lowe financed the production of Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street using stolen funds, a cinematic ode to greed that mirrored his own escapades. By cultivating relationships with Hollywood stars, he further insulated himself from suspicion, presenting an image of a legitimate billionaire philanthropist. For years, Joe Lowe operated in the shadows, cloaking his schemes in complexity and grandeur. But by 2015, the cracks in his meticulously built empire began to show. Auditors noticed irregularities in 1MDB's financial statements, sparking initial questions about the fund's management. What was supposed to be a sovereign wealth fund aimed at national development was, instead, spiraling into an abyss of $11 billion in debt. Investigative journalists from the Wall Street Journal and Sarawak Report uncovered alarming details. Their exposés revealed suspicious money transfers, shell companies, and staggering discrepancies in 1MDB's accounts. International authorities soon joined the fray. Regulators from Singapore, Switzerland, the United States, and other nations began probing the trail of illicit funds that flowed through their banking systems. The FBI launched a major investigation under its Kleptocracy Asset Recovery Initiative. Forensic experts worked tirelessly to untangle the labyrinth of transactions. Each uncovered layer pointed back to one man, Joe Lowe. The scale of the fraud shocked the world. Billions of dollars intended for public infrastructure projects had instead been funneled into private bank accounts and spent on unimaginable luxuries. Banks, auditors, and regulatory agencies faced scrutiny for enabling Lowe's schemes. Major financial players, including Goldman Sachs, found themselves in hot water. The bank was accused of facilitating the bond issuances that enabled the heist and later paid billions in penalties for its role. Bankers such as Tim Leissner and Roger Eng were implicated, with Leissner pleading guilty to bribery charges. In Malaysia, the fallout was immediate and dramatic. Public outrage over the stolen funds turned into widespread protests, demanding accountability from the ruling government. The scandal's fallout was catastrophic for Malaysian politics. Prime Minister Najib Razak, once untouchable, was ousted in a 2018 election fueled by public outrage over 1MDB scandal. He now faces multiple charges of corruption, with billions in stolen funds still unaccounted for. As the web of investigations closed in, Joe Lowe orchestrated his greatest trick, disappearing without a trace. By late 2015, law enforcement agencies across the globe were issuing warrants for his arrest, but Lowe remained elusive. Reports surfaced of him flitting between luxury hideouts in Thailand, Macau, and Hong Kong, always one step ahead of his pursuers. Using his extensive network, Lowe allegedly secured safe passage with the aid of high-level connections in countries reluctant to extradite. His private jets became phantom vessels, logging flights to cities like Taipei and Dubai, but vanishing from radar at critical moments. A master of disguise, Lowe reportedly used multiple passports and aliases, further complicating the manhunt. Forensic trails revealed Lowe's continued access to stolen funds. Transactions traced to offshore shell companies suggested he was funneling money to secure his safety, pay for protection, and fund a lifestyle of secrecy. Investigators pieced together fragments: a sudden spike in luxury real estate purchases in Shanghai, whispers of meetings with intermediaries in Macau, and encrypted communications pointing to safe houses in the Chinese mainland. By the time Malaysian authorities requested China's cooperation, Lowe had vanished into the shadows of a vast and impenetrable landscape. His allies claimed he was negotiating with governments for immunity, while skeptics believed he was untouchable due to the wealth and secrets he still controlled. The 1MDB scandal triggered a global scramble to untangle its financial labyrinth. The FBI labeled it the largest kleptocracy case in history, while Swiss prosecutors called it a case that exposed the fragility of the global banking system. Investigations spread to over 10 countries, uncovering financial institutions that had failed or outright refused to flag suspicious transactions. Asset recovery teams worked tirelessly, reclaiming properties, yachts, and artworks. Yet, for every million recovered, billions seemed to remain hidden. A Monet painting seized in New York and Lowe's opulent Beverly Hills mansion were merely fragments of a fortune scattered across countless jurisdictions. The pursuit reached fever pitch in 2018 when authorities seized Lowe's $250 million superyacht off the coast of Bali. Inside, investigators found gold-plated fixtures, crystal chandeliers, and evidence of secretive meetings, an ostentatious symbol of Lowe's hubris. Yet the man himself was nowhere to be found. Tensions heightened as Malaysian prosecutors implicated key figures, including former Prime Minister Najib Razak in the scandal. Najib's trial became a media circus, with dramatic testimonies revealing the extent of Lowe's influence and the breathtaking audacity of his scheme. Even in hiding, Lowe's shadow loomed large. Insiders speculated that he was leveraging his knowledge of the scandal's players to negotiate behind closed doors. Some believed Lowe was holding explosive secrets about global elites who had benefited from 1MDB's stolen wealth, ensuring their silence in exchange for sanctuary. Others feared his billions had bought him a life of untouchable luxury, far from the reach of justice. Yet, the question remained: how long could he stay invisible in a world connected by satellites, surveillance, and relentless investigators? The 1MDB scandal was not merely a heist. It was a systemic failure that exposed the vulnerabilities of global finance. Joe Lowe exploited every loophole, using shell companies, complicit banks, and the allure of untold wealth to build an empire of deceit. But his story is far from over. The billions he siphoned have left scars on economies, governments, and the lives of ordinary Malaysians who bear the burden of 1MDB's debt. To this day, Joe Lowe's whereabouts remain unknown.